Welcome back, Embers, or if you're new here, welcome to the Campfire Crew. My name is Sarah, my pronouns are they, them, and we do lots of makeup stuff around here. And then eventually one day I will actually post some other stuff. I swear, I have ow! Why did I do that? I have other ideas, I just haven't gotten around to posting them yet. Ow, because I'm dumb. Clearly, I just smacked myself in the goddamn face. Anyway, if you're into any of that, welcome by. So this is my first update of my pan that/those palettes. We're working on this year the Carnival 3, the Be Perfect Carnival 3 Love Tahiti palette, and my 12 shade Divina palette. We're gonna start with the Divina palette. I found my notebook. If you see me looking down, I am looking at my cute little notebook with all of my panning notes in it. So we're gonna start with this guy. The goal for my Divina palette is to use each shade 5 times. So this is what it looks like. I am gonna have to clean it off one of these days. Ba-da-da-da. So let's go through shade by shade. So Parthenos is the green shimmer. I have not used that this year. My goal is to use each shade 5 times in the year. I'll Be Tender is the blue shimmer. I used that 2 times in February, but I haven't used it this month as of March, right? Yeah. Majesty, the gold shimmer, I've used 7 times, most of which were in January, but I did use it once in February, so I've hit my goal for this, but nothing new for this month. Blazed, I used 3 times in January, but I haven't used this month. Alphaba, I used once in February, so I still have 4 uses on that, but I have no uses this month. Caudra, I have 1 use on this year, and that was in fact this month, so I only have 4 uses left on that. Vertigo, I have 3 uses on, and that was in February, so I have 2 more uses. Lucretia, I have no idea how to pronounce that, has 0 uses this year, so I'm really going to need to step my game up with actually both of these reds, so maybe I can mix them together for some red looks soon. But it's spring, so I'm doing like pinky looks right now, which we'll talk about. Patina is this dark green color, and I have used that 4 times, and that was in January, so I just have 1 more use for that. Navel is this dark blue, which we have 5 uses on. 2 of those uses were in January, 1 was in February, and 2 were this month in March. So this month we finally finished up this shade, so we have 1 more shade down and 1 less shade to work on, which is awesome. Since this is a 12 pan palette, all I need to do is work on get 1 out a month, and then I will be good for the year. So having 1 out is excellent. Nemesis is this dark red, which I've used 5 times, and that was in January, so we're done with this one. Karma was out last month, but I used it another time this month for a deepening out shade. So this month I'm going to be focusing on greens and pinks for spring, and so I'm going to be trying to focus on these. This one just needs 1 more, and this needs 4, but hopefully I can use these and maybe even this one throughout the course of the month and start working on those ones. So that's my Divina palette, and then let's get into the exciting big update, the actual palette that I am properly panning to hit pan on. And we're gonna go through each shade and if I've used it and how many times I've used it, and this is what the palette was looking like last month. And this, you can see the reflection, is what it's looking like this month. So I don't know if you can see all of it properly, but I will put up a picture. I'm just going to put this on my lap and put up a picture because it's quite a big palette to hold up. We're going to start with the shade Forest, which is the first shade in the palette. And by the way, these are written down top to bottom through each row because that's the way the palette's laid out. Greens, then blues, and kind of this way to that way. So that's how we're going to be talking about it. So we're starting up here and then slowly working down. So the first shade in the palette, Forest, I have not used this month. The next shade, Bamboo, I've used twice, And I've ignored this shade so much in the past. I had only before this used it 3 times, and I used it an additional 2, which makes for 5 uses. I'm trying to slowly get every shade to 5 uses, so that way they're all a little bit closer. So while I have goals for hitting pan, I'm also trying to just slowly work up the numbers of the less used shades so they have more progress. And I realized this month that I really love the shade Bamboo. It's this like baby puke green, which sounds unappetizing, but I love it. I think it's so pretty. I did some really cute looks with it, and I'm really excited to keep using it. Next, we have the shade Key Lime, which is very exciting. I've used it once this month, and that's all I needed to hit pan. So the thing with Key Lime is it's this very light green color, so you need kind of a lot of it to make a really intense look, which is the only kind of look I tend to like, is a really intense one because of my hooded eyes and glasses, and also just my personality in general. I just like to pack on the color, but I also feel like because of my glasses and my hooded eyes, bold looks don't look quite as bold on me as they would on some people. So I find it works out really well, and it's really good for panning. So yeah, I only needed 1 extra use to hit pan on this, and I've used this shade in total 12 times. And this was the first time I used it this year. Those other 11 uses were from previous years. The next shade is Vanilla. So Vanilla I used twice this month, and I also hit pan on it. So last year when I did my Pan Those eyeshadows, I was doing a 10 usage goal, and I rolled in Vanilla, so I was actually extremely close to pan on this. And this is before I hit any pan, so I didn't know how close I was to pan until I hit my first pan, and I realized how shallow these are, and I realized that that was very close. So it only took 2 uses to use it, but in total I've used it 13 times as of when I first owned this palette. The next shade is the Deep. It is that dark blue, and I used that twice this month. Vanilla is the shade I use this with because I realized vanilla looks really, really pretty with dark blues, especially the Deep. So I use those 2 times, the same 2 times I use vanilla. And now the Deep has 9 uses. Khaki I did not use last month, so it's exactly the same. It's that deep kind of olivey brown. The next shade is Tahiti Green, and I use Tahiti Green. I really can't see. Let me just shove my face in this book. Tahiti Green I used 3 times, and as you can tell from the photos, I hit pan on this shade. So I was using this with kind of pinky looks as an accent color, and I thought that was so interesting and pretty, and it reminds me so much of spring. I'm looking actually outside right now at the really bright green leaves because they're just starting to come in. They haven't fully come in yet, and I absolutely love that color. I was actually planning on focusing on Tahiti Green this month, but there was a few days left in the month, so I just started working on it, not thinking I was going to get pan, and I ended up with pan, so that's really exciting. So yeah, I used it 3 times this month, and in total I've used it 16 times to hit pan. The next shade is Tropics, and I did not use that at all this month. After that, we have Reef, that really bright tealy shade, I want to call it. I don't know if it's quite teal, but that really pretty green blue shade, and I used that 2 times this month for a total of 6 uses, which is great. The next shade I used was Lagoon, which I also used in the looks I made with Vanilla and the Deep, the blue looks, to buff everything out. And I used that shade twice this month. I've used it a total of, I believe, 5 times this year, but twice last month for a total of 11 uses total. Clay I used once. Yeah, clay I used once this month. And it's actually a really beautiful mustardy color, like a deep mustard, and I have not appreciated it enough. It is now at 5 uses, which is great, but I'm really excited to use this shade more. It's underappreciated, but I definitely, every time I've used it, I love it. I just need to really sink into it. It's such a beautiful color. I think it'll be really good for fall too. The next shade is Cocoa. And Cocoa I used twice this month. The next shade is Rum, and I used Rum once. So Rum is a shade that I just love. I think it's so beautiful, and I'm probably going to continue to get solid, consistent use on that shade because it's a shade I really like. I believe I used Rum with my Project Level Up palette, which we'll talk about in another video. Tan lines I did not use at all. Ginger I used once this month. It's not my favorite look color. I don't really like the browns in this palette. Cocoa and Ginger are not colors I use very often, but I will use them if I'm doing like a sunflower look, which I have a sunflower shirt. So whenever I wear that, sometimes I'll do a sunflower look. So that's probably how I'm gonna be using those shades. The next color I have is Sand, which already had a pan on it, so I didn't end up using it. After that, we have Yellow, which again already had a pan on it, so I didn't end up using it. The next shade I have is Coral, which I used once for a total of 4 uses. This month, I am planning on using at least once more time to get to that 5 uses, but I'm probably going to use it a couple more times. But likely I will use it in summer. I just find it such a bright, fun shade, but every time I see it, I think of summer as opposed to spring, even though it's like a really pretty pink. It just reminds me so much of summer, so I'm probably gonna wait until maybe next month or the end of this month to start using it a lot. After that, we have Bear, and Bear is one of the shades I'm gonna be focusing on this month. When I decided to focus on Tahiti Green and Key Lime, I also decided to focus on Bear. Unlike those shades, it does not have a pan, and I don't know if I'm gonna get a pan on it this time because I usually use it as a crease color. Unlike a lot of these shades, which I use a lot of in my lower lash line, in my inner corner, Bear isn't really gonna be used very much like that. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to pan it this month, but at least I can make some good progress on it, and I think that's going to be really good. Progress is progress after all. The next, and I used Bear twice this month for a total of 10 uses. The next shade is Hibiscus, and Hibiscus I did not use at all, but it already has a pan on it. And the last shade of this page, at least, is Mango, which I also didn't use at all because it already has a pan on it. After that, we have Sundown, which was part of my Pan Those eyeshadows a few months ago, but I have not used that at all. Blaze, I didn't use at all. JJ already has a pan on it, so does Blaze. I didn't use that at all. I think I'm gonna use JJ at some point for like Halloween because when I panned it a few years ago, I realized that it was a really pretty Halloween color. But for now, no use on it. No use on Chili Pepper, but I do have 1 use on Pearl for a total of... I do have 1 use on Pearl this month for a total of 8 uses. Bloom, I did not use this month. Pink Lily, I did not use this month, but I'm going to have to focus on that sometime soon because it only has 2 uses total on it, and I want to, again, get it up to 5. Blue Moon, I did not use this month, and it only has 3 uses, so I'm going to need to use that at some point. Fruity, I didn't use at all this month. Once we get into the purples, you're going to be able to see I don't use a lot of them that often. There's a lot of purples in this palette, and honestly, a lot of them feel kind of samey to me. I'm not sure why some of them are in this palette at all. They're just so similar to me. I'm just like, I don't know what to do with all these purples. Lilac I did not use this month, but I think it's a really pretty shade that I might use this month for some spring looks. I think now that I've panned Tahiti Green and Key Lime, I'm not obviously going to be focusing on those anymore, so I might switch my attention from those to Lilac, so I can focus on Lilac and Bear as transition colors and kind of use the shades around them as other kind of shades. So Pearl, Rose Pink, those kind of shades I can start using as the shimmers and focus on those, which are more likely to get panned. There's actually a bit of a dip in Lilac, more so than there is in Bear, so I suspect I could maybe get a pan this month or next month for Lilac. And the next shade / last shade, new shade we have pan in, I'm really good with my words, is Tahiti, which I used just a single time last month, this month, whatever, to hit pan on. It was really close to pan. I was actually doing a purple look and just putting it as a transition shade, but when I used it as a transition shade, I realized how close it was to pan, so I got out my little pencil brush and I decided to put it on my inner corner and to put it on my lower lash line. Because those are smaller brushes, I tend to hit pan more easily with those, and so I knew that if I used that pencil brush and really made the look more purple than I was intending, I would get that pan, and I did, which was amazing. And it's also really nice to know that I know my palette so well that I can be like, get the pencil brush out, this pan's close, change gears, we're doing a purple look now, boys. I think that's really fun, and it took me total 11 uses to hit pan on Tahiti. The next shade is Rose Pink. I used that once this month. I didn't use magenta. I used Blackberry, the dark purple, once this month, probably to darken up the look that I used Tahiti with. That would make sense to me. I didn't use Starlight at all, but it does have a pan, an unnatural pan, but pan nonetheless. So I didn't focus on that. Grape I didn't use, but I need to use one more time to get 5 uses on it. Amethyst I used once, probably also with the purple look that I made. That's a total of 4 uses, so if I use it one more time, I'll be at the 5. Twilight I didn't use, and Black Beach I didn't use and probably won't use since I have the black in my other palette. That's really good, so I'm probably just going to focus on that black and not touch this one. I might touch it 2 more times just to get to 5 uses and then just kind of ignore it and pretend it doesn't exist. So that's not a pan that's going to have pan on it anytime remotely soon. So that is the update. I got 4 new pans. I'm going to show you in pictures or in video instead of pictures one more time. So we hit pan on Tahiti, this color. We hit pan on Vanilla, that's what you're called. Will you show up in camera, please? Okay, the pan really doesn't, oh, you can kind of see it just right up there. We have pan on Key Lime and we have pan on Tahiti Green. So 4 new pans. I do not think I'm going to get 4 new pans next month. A lot of these pans, like I said, Tahiti, I just needed to use once. Key Lime, I used twice. Tahiti Green, I used twice. I think Vanilla, I used twice. A lot of these pans were really close from just usage over the years. As we go through this process, through this pan those eyeshadows, it's going to be harder and harder to hit pan because I'm hitting pan on all the things I've used the most of. But like I said, as far as focus shades, I was focusing on these greens, but now that I'm done them, I think I'm going to focus on Bear and Lilac. And because I'm focusing on this pink and this purple, I'm definitely going to be focusing also on Pearl because it is kind of pink, kind of purple. So it's perfect. Rose Pink, I think, would also be really pretty to focus this purple and this pink with. So maybe we'll see some new pans next month. I'm hoping for at least 1 or 2 next month and every month following, but we'll see how that goes. I'm also, of course, going to focus on getting every shade to 5 uses. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. I don't think I'm going to have, like I said, this amazing update next month, but I am excited to see how it goes, to play with some of these greens, the purples, the pinks, just kind of do some spring looks. And I hope you guys enjoyed this update, and I will see you next month. Bye, y'all. Bye-bye.